Is Nazem Kadri eventually going to sign with the New York Islanders? Is that deal already official? And could a spin-off effect be Anthony Beauvillier possibly heading to the Montreal Canadiens? Plus, we have an update on the Michael DiPietro situation in Vancouver. Sounds like a trade might be getting close there as well. Plus, we have some updates on some other organizational changes, some signings, and some PTOs as well. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As you mentioned, we have a variety of things to talk about here today. I'm in a new location here again, still on vacation. This time we're in Digby, Nova Scotia. Obviously, I've been here before. If you've been following the channel for some time, I visited here the past couple of years, and you've seen some different videos, mostly outdoors. Unfortunately, it's a little late, a little dark right now, so outdoor videos not really on the agenda, but I'll try to have some of those over the next few days here while I'm here visiting. I will show you a couple of quick pictures of just what's just right outside my window here. Beautiful spot, again, right on the Bay of Fundy. If you haven't had a chance to visit this place, I highly recommend it. Great place, especially if you want to just come and have more of a relaxing style vacation. Enjoy some good seafood here on the East Coast. Enjoy the beautiful scenery of the Bay of Fundy, and just have a relaxing good time. So that's what I'm hopefully trying to do here, but there certainly will be videos throughout the week as well as we continue to talk about the latest news around the NHL. Now, of course, on to some of today's news topics. First up, we found out that the San Jose Sharks have added a couple former NHL players to their player development department, adding Tommy Wingels and Lucas Spiza, both recently retired NHL players. So they were both bolstering their development team. And I believe Mike Ricci, who's been a long-time Shark, working in that same sort of department, I believe his responsibilities have been changed and updated as well. I'm not quite sure the exact logistics on what's changing for him, but he's still with the organization, and they've added some more people there to help out. And of course, we do have some information on some PTO, as well as some potential rumors around a couple of free agent players. The Carolina Hurricanes are bringing back veteran center iceman Derek Stepan, but he's not getting signed to a contract. He's going to training camp with Carolina on a PTO. Of course, he signed there last year as a UFA, played in 58 games and put up 19 points, obviously trying to create a little bit of competition amongst the bottom six forward group and some of the younger players that are going to be vying for those spots. So obviously he'll go and see if he can earn himself another short-term contract. As far as a couple of UFA rumors out there, there has been some speculation that Sam Gagner, who was trying to continue his NHL career, might be heading back to where it all started with the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, he's played with the Red Wings the past couple seasons. He's bounced around to a variety of teams over his NHL career, but Gagner is certainly still capable of playing on a limited role. Good veteran player, good leader to have around, lots of experience. And there is reports out of the Edmonton Journal that there is believed to be mutual interest there. Of course, the Oilers who are already in a tight cap situation, likely trying to make some other subsequent moves before they announce this, or even try to finalize things, I should say. So no guarantees it happens, but of course Gagner is potentially heading back to his old stomping grounds in Edmonton. And Vancouver are reportedly interested in bringing in defenseman Calvin DeHaan, a veteran defenseman. I'm not sure if they're going to sign him or if it's going to be a PTO, but there is apparently interest there to add another veteran defenseman to the mix. Of course, they would like to move out some other money, and we've heard Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford talk a lot about the Canucks wanting more salary cap flexibility, and it's really a scenario where they haven't done a lot. So not really sure what we're going to see the Canucks, if they're going to be doing much more throughout this offseason. Maybe we'll see some more type of deals throughout training camp or right after camp, or we'll have to wait and see. But DeHaan is a possibility to go to Canucks training camp, either on a PTO or maybe a short-term cheap one-year contract. We'll have to see on that. And of course, staying with Vancouver, it does sound like young goaltender Michael DiPietro, who would like a trade out of Vancouver, might be getting close to getting his wish. I know I've seen reports today from Rick Dhaliwal, and that was today, indicating that there is sources telling him that there's mutual interest that from a variety of teams, and that there is a deal on the table, or at least it sounds like it's on the table, that makes sense for the Canucks. So I wonder if one of those teams could be the Montreal Canadiens. There was reports before that there was a link there previously that they were interested in bringing the young goaltender in. Of course, we've talked about in recent days of Vegas needing a goaltender and wondering if one of their older veteran goalies like Jake Allen or Samuel Montembeault could be of interest in Vegas. I would think Allen would be the more likely candidate if they were going to be calling Montreal to see if they can make a move on a goalie. But to have another young goalie to work with Caden Primo at the Laval Rocket AHL farm team. So we'll see. I'm not sure if that's going to be where he ends up or what, but it sounds like there is interest and a deal on the table that makes sense for Vancouver. So who exactly that is, we don't know, but there was previous links to Montreal. So I wonder if that might be a scenario that might actually unfold. Only time will tell. It could be a different team that we hadn't heard of either. So we'll have to see where things go. The Washington Capitals are anticipating and operating like Nicklas Backstrom isn't going to play this year. There was original reports when he first had his surgery that he was going to be out for at least, I think it was like 6 to 8 months, like probably like half to 2/3 of the season. But there was early indications that he hoped to be able to play this year. But at this point, Tariq El-Bashir, who reports for the Capitals for The Athletic, is saying in his recent reports that they're operating like he's not going to be there. And to be honest, based on the hip surgeries that he had to have, I would be quite surprised if he did play this year. It's a possible type of surgery that could be career-ending or career-altering. So to take the whole season off would not be shocking in the least. But obviously, the Washington Capitals, to me, when they signed Dylan Strome, that was a red flag that Backstrom likely isn't going to be able to go this year. They brought in, obviously, some reinforcements, another guy who could play center, and hopefully, emerge and play a top 6 role with them is what they're hoping for to get out of Strome. Of course, they brought in Connor Brown via trade to kind of reshape their top 6 a little bit. Of course, they're going to have Tom Wilson be on LTIR to start the year. He's going to be out for the first few months as well. So they are going to have a big LTIR pool, but they will be running into a cap crunch once Wilson's able to come back. So there's also talk that Lars Eller might be a trade target in Washington as well. And I've seen some recent reports of Washington Hockey Now suggesting that Eller could be a trade target. Makes sense after not having a fantastic year last year, faced some inconsistencies, and he's got 1 year left at $3.5 million. There might be interest in another team picking him up to kind of finish out that contract if they would need some bottom 6 help, so to speak, and it could be basically a cap dump for Washington if they need to move out some money to be able to activate Wilson off of LTIR throughout later in the year when he's ready to come back. But like I said, with Strome coming in, they are anticipating that Nicklas Backstrom likely doesn't play this year, and I honestly do have concerns and question whether or not his career might be over based on the surgery he's having, but we certainly hope for the best and would love to see him make it back and hopefully still be an effective player for the Capitals to try to finish that fairly new 5-year contract that he signed with them not all that long ago. Now, the latest on Nazem Kadri and the subsequent moves that could come from the New York Islanders as a subsequent happening here to kind of level up the money in Long Island. There is reports from the DFL Rundown, which is a podcast from Jason Gregor and Frank Saravalli, today indicating that there's 2 more sources, according to Jason Gregor, that 2 rival GMs, that have indicated to him that they are under the belief that Kadri is indeed going to the Islanders. Now, I've seen other reports in the last day or so with other sources. There just seems to be way too many sources here saying that Kadri to the Islanders is pretty much a sure thing. Obviously, it makes sense considering how good of a player he was, how good of a season he had, how coveted he would have been on the market. That it's, we know that the Islanders are kind of becoming infamous here for the secrecy and not waiting, kind of extending their, when they tell us their signings, and Lou likes to keep things hidden until he has to announce it, to try to, I guess he feels it gives them leverage on the market to open up some cap room. We'll see, but more sources again. So to me, it does sound like it's indeed happening. But now there's other reports in Montreal Hockey Now who are basically, they said they were investigated some of their sources based on the New York Islanders Hockey Now reports from Stefan Rosner talking about the fact that it's believed that the Montreal Canadiens are definitely one of the teams that's very interested in Anthony Beauvillier. Now, we've talked about what the Islanders are going to do to create the cap space, and it was believed for the longest time they were trying to move Josh Bailey. It sounds like right now that that's pretty much likely not happening. It's just too tough, too expensive for a player who has been underperforming and somebody who's got 2 years left on his term, over $5 million. I mean, that's just, it's tough. No wonder Lou hasn't pulled the trigger on that kind of deal, because I'm sure that any team he's talked about, Bailey, is looking for an astronomical price. But Beauvillier, who is much younger, a bit more productive, obviously has higher upside, longer term, has better value. And as much as they don't really necessarily want to trade Beauvillier, if they're going to create some cap space and make the room the necessary for Kadri to come in, it's unfortunately likely going to have to take a player like him that unfortunately needs to go. Makes sense that obviously Montreal, who's going to be a young, rebuilding, retooling team here, that he's young enough to fit their model, and they'd have interest, of course. So he likely, I assume, would be okay going back to his home province in Quebec to play for Montreal. But obviously, they tend to be fond of bringing in French-Canadian players. Not that really matters too much, because the fact is he's a good hockey player and could be a good fit for their team, which is more important here. But at the same time, the fact that Lou hasn't been able to pull the trigger and hasn't been able to announce any of these signings, I do wonder, and these reports kind of indicate the same sort of thought process here, is if he has trades he's working on to free up the space, but it's like a domino effect. Look at Montreal. Could they take Anthony Beauvillier? I'm sure they'd love to have him, but they've already got their own cap issues, and they're trying to clear money too. And you get way more teams trying to clear space than you have teams that can take them on, and it's creating a logjam. And until you see a team pull the trigger, it's going to be tough to kind of open the floodgates here a little bit, because there's a bunch of deals that are likely been discussed to a degree, maybe have like a verbal or handshake agreement, and they just can't seem to execute until teams start to kind of fill some needs here, and it's just taking some time. So like Montreal would love to move a variety of players. We've been talking about that for months. It's been a little while since we've had much of an update, but we know players like Dvorak and Hoffman, for example, maybe a guy like Armia. Like, there's lots of veteran players there that have 1 or 2 years left in their deal, anywhere from $3 to $5 million. They'd love to be able to move a few of those players, and it's been tough, and they haven't been able to do it. So maybe it's a case here of the Islanders wanting to do a deal with a team like the Habs, but they're waiting for them to create space, because the Islanders can't take money back. That's the thing, right? So I'm sure they've had, based on what these conversations and these rumors are from some of these sources, it sounds like there's definitely interest and mutual interest, and it sounds like they'd like to do a deal, but Montreal would have to only send picks or prospects back to the Islanders. That's all they could take. So they need to clear money. It's like a spin-off effect, right? So until you get enough teams that kind of connect the dots here together to make it all happen, it kind of makes it difficult. So to me, that's why I think we're kind of in a standstill mode with a lot of these transactions. So we'll have to see, but we very well could see a busy time in Montreal. Wouldn't be shocking by the time we get to training camp if they're able to find a way to clear out a little bit of room, and then we see them maybe make moves for guys like Beauvillier and DiPietro, some younger players that could potentially help fit their mold for this retooling, rebuilding team, whatever you want to call it, in Montreal here as they get ready for the 22-23 NHL upcoming season. So we'll see, but that's the reports here for now. But lots of people think it's a done deal for Kadri. It's just a matter of Lou clearing the space, and then of course he's probably waiting for other teams to clear the space to take the deal that he wants to do, and so on. So when the logjam will clear, it's difficult to say until we see one of the teams that has space, like Arizona, Anaheim, a few of the teams that are in that predicament. It's going to be tough before we see much movement. So let me know your thoughts on everything discussed here today down in the comment section. We'll talk about it further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe, stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis here on all 32 NHL teams. Like I said, stay tuned for some different videos here, hopefully from Digby, Nova Scotia over the next 3 or 4 days. Hopefully we'll get a few, at least, depending on the weather and everything outdoors. You can see some of the beautiful sights and see the area here, because there's lots of scenic areas that can hopefully get some good shots outdoors. So thanks for watching again, and I'll catch you next time.